2 goals, 2 moments of brilliance, and 1 man who broke Arsenal hearts again. Welcome to James Arsenal Analysis. I'm James. Before we get into every single detail of what happened at the Etihad today, I want to say this to every single person watching right now. If you are an Arsenal supporter, if you live and breathe this club the way I do, the way millions of us do around the world, then you need to stay until the very end of this video. Because what I am about to break down is not just a match, it is a defining moment in this Premier League title race. And every single player who wore that red and white shirt today deserves their analysis done properly, done honestly, and done with the respect this club demands. If you are new to this channel, hit subscribe right now, turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown. Drop a like on this video before we even get started. It takes 2 seconds and it means everything to a channel that is built purely on passion for this football club. And leave a comment below telling me who you think was Arsenal's best player today. I want to hear from you. I genuinely do. Now, let us get into it, because there is a lot to talk about. Arsenal travelled to the Etihad today, knowing exactly what was at stake. This was not just 3 points. This was a statement. This was the moment Mikel Arteta's side had a chance to all but end Manchester City's title hopes and take a commanding grip on a Premier League season that has been building to this very fixture. They did not get that statement. They left Manchester without the points. And now, with City holding a game in hand and just a single goal separating these two sides in the race for the title, the knife edge has never felt sharper. City beat us today, 2-1. Raya, the French summer signing, who has been growing in stature every single week since joining from Lyon, opened the scoring with a moment of individual brilliance that reminded everyone watching exactly why Pep Guardiola went out and spent £34 million to bring him to the Etihad. And then, just when it felt like Arsenal had weathered the storm, just when we had responded with a goal of our own through Kai Havertz, Erling Haaland did what Erling Haaland does. He scored. He hurt us. And Gabriel was left standing in the middle of that pitch, knowing he had lost a battle with the most relentless striker in world football. Today's game was not a disaster, but it was not good enough. And we are going to look at every single Arsenal player who took the field and give them the honest assessment they deserve. Let us start between the sticks. David Raya. I want to be fair to the Spaniard because there are moments in his performance today that deserve credit. Both goals, and I want to make this very clear, were not directly his fault. He was beaten cleanly on the Cherki opener. That was a finish of such quality that most goalkeepers in the world would have been helpless. And for Haaland's winner, Raya was again well beaten. And there was very little he could have done. But there was an early moment in this game that made the stomach drop. A moment of nerves. A moment where he nearly served the ball directly to Erling Haaland. Now, against most teams, you get away with a nervous moment in the opening minutes. Against this Manchester City side, with Haaland waiting like a coiled spring every single time the ball is loose in that final third, you cannot afford to do that. You simply cannot. Raya is our goalkeeper. I believe in Raya as a goalkeeper. But 5 out of 10 today reflects a performance that had its flaws. And at this stage of the season, flaws against a team like City come at an extraordinary cost. Now, this is an interesting rating, and I think it is a fair one. Christian Mosquera, the summer signing from Valencia, who was brought in to add depth and competition in the defensive line, was actually handed a significant role today. And for large parts of this game, he delivered. He was booked in the first half for persistent fouling. And that booking came as he struggled to fully contain Josko Doku on that side of the pitch. Doku is one of the most frightening wide players in European football on his day. The pace, the unpredictability, the ability to go either way, containing him is genuinely one of the hardest individual assignments in the Premier League. So the fact that Mosquera struggled at moments is not a scandal. The fact that he still managed to keep his composure, contribute effectively over the course of the game, and was eventually replaced, having done a relatively solid job that earns him a 7. He is a young player finding his feet at the highest level. Today showed both his limitations and his promise. William Saliba. Every time this man puts on the Arsenal shirt, I feel calmer. There is a composure about him, a reading of the game, an authority in his defensive work that makes him one of the most naturally gifted centre-backs in European football right now. Today had a moment that will get talked about. He was fortunate that the referee's whistle came at the right time, because had it not, there could have been consequences. But here is the thing about Saliba. When the moment demanded it, he was in position to make a big goal line clearance. That kind of instinct, that kind of defensive awareness does not happen by accident. That is a player who is always switched on, always reading the game 2 or 3 steps ahead. Overall, Saliba had a strong game. 7 out of 10 is correct. He did his job. On a day when Arsenal's defensive line came under sustained pressure from one of the most attacking sides in the country, Saliba stood up. That matters. This one is personal, and I mean that in the best possible way. Gabriel wore his heart on his sleeve today. You could see it from the very first minute. The passion, the intensity, the desire to throw himself into every challenge. That is who Gabriel is. That is why this club gave him a long-term contract last summer. That is why Arsenal supporters love him. But passion without execution at the highest level is not enough. And today, against Erling Haaland, Gabriel came out on the wrong side of one of the most important individual jewels of this title race. Let us give him his credit first. He made a huge block earlier in the game to deny Raya from giving City the lead, deflecting the shot onto the post at a critical moment. That was a brilliant defensive intervention. That was Gabriel at his very best. But then came Haaland. And that second City goal, the one that broke Arsenal's resistance, the one that ultimately decided this game, came because Gabriel lost the physical battle with the Norwegian in that moment. Haaland is not normal. We all know this. He is a force of nature. But Gabriel is Arsenal's first-choice centre-back, one of the best defenders in the Premier League. And when the biggest moment of the afternoon arrived, he was second best. And then the red card situation. Look, I am grateful he did not get sent off. I am. Because losing Gabriel for the run-in would have been catastrophic, given the injury situation this squad is currently dealing with. But the fact that it was even a conversation, the fact that the clash with Haaland put him in that position, that is the kind of emotional moment that managers lose sleep over when the title race is this tight. 5 out of 10, it hurts to write, but it is right. If you wanted a perfect advertisement for the loan signing Mikel Arteta secured from Bayer Leverkusen on deadline day last summer, you watched Piero Hincapié today. This man ran all afternoon. He was relentless. He was committed. He produced a wonderful block on Semedo. Antoine Semedo, the January signing from Bournemouth, who has been City's most dangerous threat down that right side in recent weeks and prevented what could have been a very dangerous close-range chance. But it was not just the defensive work. Hincapié got up and down that left side with real intent. He shut down Semenyo repeatedly. He gave City problems going forward and managed his defensive responsibilities with intelligence and energy. On a day when Arsenal needed players to stand up and show what they were made of, Hincapié was one of the few who genuinely delivered. 7 out of 10, and I think some people might even say that is undervaluing him. He was excellent. Martin Zubimendi has been one of the summer signings of the season across the entire Premier League, not just for Arsenal, but there have been moments where even his best performances have not been enough to change the outcome of a game. Today was one of those days, but here is the thing. He was magnificent individually. The rating reflects that. This was one of his best performances in an Arsenal shirt in the biggest game of the season so far. On the biggest stage this league has to offer, the Spaniard stepped up. He covered ground. He protected the backline. He recycled possession. He did the unglamorous work that elite midfielders do week in and week out without ever really getting the headlines they deserve. 7 out of 10. And in the context of what was a deeply frustrating collective performance, Martin Zubimendi deserves genuine credit for the individual standard he set. Declan Rice is the engine of this Arsenal midfield. Everyone knows that. He is the player who sets the tempo, who covers every blade of grass, who makes Mikel Arteta's system function at the level it does. Today he worked, he pressed, he never stopped moving. But 6 out of 10 reflects an honest truth. In the key moments of this game, Rice could not quite impose himself on the ball the way Arsenal needed him to. The presence was there physically, the desire was there, but the moments where his quality needed to cut through, where his decision-making needed to be a level above the opposition, those moments were not quite what they have been in his best performances this season. Rice will have watched that performance back tonight and known it was not his finest hour in an Arsenal shirt. A 6 is fair. It is not a damning of a player who is extraordinary. It is an honest reflection of a day where even our best could not reach their ceiling. The captain is back, and that alone, just having Martin Odegaard on that pitch, changes Arsenal. It genuinely does. The difference his presence makes to how Arsenal play out from deep was evident today. The four-man City press, which has been causing problems for teams all season, was dealt with considerably better with Odegaard in the side. He dropped into pockets of space, he received, he progressed the ball, he found 2 passes that created 2 huge chances for his teammates. But, and this is important, A 6 out of 10 is honest because there was a sense throughout this afternoon that Odegaard was not at full throttle. Perhaps that is understandable given the injury he has been managing. Perhaps it is the burden of coming into a game of this magnitude without full rhythm. Whatever the reason, the Arsenal captain did not have the decisive impact on this game that his talent demands. And the decision to take Eze off rather than Odegaard late in the game, that is the moment that left many supporters shaking their heads. But that is a tactical conversation for the manager to answer. On Odegaard, individually, 6 out of 10 reflects a contribution that was valuable but not transformative. Noni Madueke was signed from Chelsea in the summer with real excitement around what he could bring to this Arsenal attack. And across this season, there have been performances that have justified that excitement entirely. Today was not one of them. He had runs down the right side. He showed his pace, his desire to get beyond the defensive line, but he could not find his way through. He could not create the openings. He was taken off at halftime by Mikel Arteta, which is the clearest possible signal that the manager saw what the rating reflects, that this was not a Madueke afternoon. 5 out of 10, he will have better days. He has already shown that this season. But today, on the biggest stage, he could not deliver what Arsenal needed. Kai Havertz scored today, and I will tell you something. This man never gives up. He never stops pressing. He never stops running. And that relentless work ethic was rewarded when he got his boot to Gianluigi Donnarumma's attempted clearance and watched the ball rebound into the net. That goal, the goal itself, that is Havertz in a nutshell. It was not a thunderous strike. It was not a moment of individual genius. It was the reward for commitment, for pressing high, for forcing the opposition goalkeeper into a moment of catastrophic error. He was also set through into the box by Odegaard and had his shot saved by Donnarumma. He was beaten in a race for a one-on-one with Bernardo Silva later in the game. And he headed over a late chance that could have earned Arsenal a point. Their overall performance might not have deserved, but that the drama of the occasion certainly merited. 7 out of 10 is accurate. On a day of collective frustration, Havertz at least showed the mentality and the moments of quality that remind you exactly why Arteta trusts him. Now, this is a rating that tells a story. Eberechi Eze signed for £67.5 million last summer. Gave away the first goal. He backed out of a challenge as Raya Cherki drove at the Arsenal defence and the Frenchman went through and finished clinically. That is a moment of hesitation in a Premier League title race. And it cost Arsenal. But here is the thing about Eze. He did not hide after that. He came back into the game. He went close to getting Arsenal level before Havertz's goal, turning onto his left foot and curling a beautiful effort that struck the post. On another day, that goes in. On another day, Eze is the hero of this game rather than the source of a collective frustration. And then, and this is what left supporters baffled, he was the one taken off. Not Odegaard, Eze, the player who had shown enterprise creativity and nearly put Arsenal level. The decision left many in the away end and watching on television shaking their heads. 7 out of 10 for Eze. It reflects a performance that had a costly low point but also real moments of quality. The substitution decision is on the manager. Eze himself gave enough to warrant that rating. Gabriel Martinelli came on at half-time in place of Madueke. Within moments of his introduction, he gave the ball away centrally. A mistake that led directly to a Haaland chance. The rebound from which hit the post off a resulting corner. When you come on in a title race fixture at the Etihad with the score level and your first meaningful contribution leads to the opposition's best striker having a chance at goal, the 5 out of 10 rating speaks for itself. Martinelli has had a complicated season. He has shown moments of his very best, but moments like this afternoon remind you how much fine margins define a campaign. Ben White came on and had little to no effect on the game. 4 out of 10. He has clearly not been at his best in recent weeks, and today did nothing to change that picture. Leandro Trossard came on and provided the late cross that could have set Arsenal up for a dramatic equaliser. 6 out of 10 for a cameo that at least showed intent and quality on the ball. If that cross had found a head or a boot in the right place, we would be talking about Trossard very differently tonight. Victor Gyökeres, Arsenal's top scorer this season with 15 goals in all competitions, came on late and had little time to make an impact. 4 out of 10 reflects the lack of influence, though the time he was given made it nearly impossible to change the game. You cannot judge Gyökeres on moments that brief. His season as a whole has been transformative for this club. Let me tell you what today actually means, because I refuse to sit here and simply accept defeat without putting it into context. Arsenal are still in this title race, genuinely. That single goal separating these two sides at the top of the Premier League table tells you everything about how tight this has been. City now have that game in hand against Burnley at Turf Moor, and if they win it, they go to the top of the table. That is the reality. That is what is at stake. But here is what also needs to be said. Arsenal, with Bukayo Saka absent, with Yuri Timber unavailable, with Ricardo Calafiori out, with Martin Odegaard still returning from injury, went to the Etihad Stadium and were competitive. They had chances. Kai Havertz scored. Eze hit the post. The late cross from Trossard nearly produced something extraordinary. An Arsenal side operating below full strength went toe-to-toe with a Manchester City squad that spent close to £170 million in the summer transfer window alone. That is not a disaster. That is a foundation. What the ratings tell us today is that Arsenal had individuals who stepped up. Saliba, Zubimendi, Hincapie, Havertz, Eze, and individuals who fell short of what this stage demands. The substitutes collectively made the afternoon harder rather than easier. And that is a problem Arteta needs to address before this title race reaches its final weeks. I want to leave you with this. Every Arsenal supporter who watched today felt the sting of that Haaland goal. That familiar, crushing feeling. But I also want every single one of you to remember something. 3 consecutive seasons as Premier League runners-up. 3 consecutive seasons of progress. A squad that has been rebuilt this summer with genuine ambition. Gyökeres leading the line. Zubimendi controlling the midfield. Eze and Madueke adding creativity. Hincapie and Mosquera adding depth across the defensive line. This is not a team that is done. This is a team that is 1 game in hand away from being locked in the greatest title race this division has seen in years. And when Saka returns, when Timber is back, when this squad is at full strength in those final weeks, I genuinely believe we can do this. Arsenal, always Arsenal. That is the full breakdown for today. Thank you for watching James Arsenal Analysis. If you have been here since the beginning of this video, you are the reason this channel exists. Smash that like button if the breakdown was worth your time. Subscribe if you are not already here. And drop me your ratings in the comments. I want to see if you agree or if you think I have been too harsh or too kind on anyone today. I am James. This is James Arsenal Analysis. We go again.